In example two, we've got Veritas manufacturers, which produces tablets that they sell to various retailers at a markup of 50%. Their financial year ends on the 28th of February each year. I will actually highlight the markup because I don't know if I will need it. I'll probably need it. Basically, that 50% will enable me to calculate sales if I'm given cost of sales. It'll also enable me to calculate cost of sales if I'm given sales. Then it says obviously, I'll also highlight the end of the financial year, which is the 28th of February. Then they say the following opening balances appeared in the books on the 1st of March 2020. We've got raw materials of 96,000, work in progress of 23,000, finished goods stock amounting to 25,000, consumable stores on hand amounting to 10,000. Now, what do I do with these balances? 96,000, I will take it straight to my raw material cost as balance at the beginning of the year. And work in progress will be found in your production cost statement. That is balance at the beginning of the year, you add it. Finished goods balance, which was 25,000, you'll find it in the cost of finished goods and you will write it there as opening balance. And the last one will be consumables. Consumables will be recorded as indirect material in the factory overheads, and you will put that as your opening balance of 10,000 Rand. Done with the opening balances. Let's read further. Then it says transactions for the year. Raw materials amounting to 120,000 were bought on credit. I will basically take that to my raw materials and put it under purchases. For number two, I've got raw materials amounting to $600 were bought from New York for cash. Okay, so basically I will add that with the 120. But we use rands in South Africa, we don't use dollars. And here we are given raw materials that were bought from New York, and we need to write it in rands. And then it says Veritas paid 220 to transport. So that is transportation, obviously. These raw materials into South Africa, and exchange rate on the day of the purchase was 16 Rand is to $1. And then they said custom duties amounted to 12% of the purchase price that was paid of the purchase price. So we don't know what that is for now and then they said all payments were made by EFT. I will only focus on the purchases. I am going to take those $600, change them to rands. By multiplying this 600 by what I want rands, which is 16, and divided by the corresponding exchange rate or ratio, which is $1. Now, how much will those give us in rands? It will be $600 multiplied by 16 divided by 1, which is 9,600. This 9,600, I'm going to add it to purchases and my raw materials cost. I'll basically have the 120,000 plus 9,600 to get my total purchases, which will be 129,600. Then they gave us courage. They said that courage on purchases was $220. Similarly there, for me to change this $220 2 rands. I'm going to take that $220 multiply it by 16 and divide it by just $1. And that'll give me my transportation cost. Obviously, I will add that as my carriage on purchases in my direct material cost note. Note that you include all costs you incurred to bring those raw materials to conditions ready for them to be converted into finished goods. That is why I'm going to take that and add it as transportation, which will add to the cost of raw materials that were used in the production process. Now, my transportation here will be that 220,000 times 16, okay, which is carriage on purchases. I'm going to edit with number 3, where they said carriage on purchases paid by EFT amounted to 25,000. Whatever I got there when I took 220 and I multiplied it by 16, I am going to edit with 25,000. $220 multiplied by 16. Let me see how much will that give me. You multiply that by 16 and then you will add 25,000 to that to get your total carriage. And your total carriage on purchases will be the sum of the two, and that will give you 28,520. And then for custom duties, they said custom duties will be paid as 12% of purchases. So I'm going to take the 12%, I'm going to take the purchases, which amounted to 9,600, because those are the purchases those are the actually cost of raw materials we purchased from New York. We will take that and multiply it by 12% custom duty. And our custom duty on that will be 1,152. Now, a lot of students normally confuse custom duty. They think custom duty is the cost of raw materials that you purchase overseas. No, custom duty is a tax that will be given to you as a percentage that will tell you that to purchase these raw materials, we paid so much tax on them. And in this case, that tax will be that 1,152. Then guys, I will just leave it like that because that's all I've got for now. Let's go to number 4. Number 4 says that consumable stores, which is indirect materials bought for cash for the factory, amounted to 36,500. 3,500 of these purchases were returned to the supplier. I am going to add that to my indirect material in my factory overheads, but then subtract the returns. So you will take your purchases minus the returns, which will be 36,500 minus the 3,500. Done. Number 5 talks about salaries and wages. And the way they broke it down, they say is that the number of factory workers is 4. Normal time expected per worker per year will be 1,960. Overtime actual hours per worker per year amounts to 100. And normal time rate is 90 Rand per hour. Overtime rate is 180 per hour. And for bonuses to workers, it's basically 12% of normal wage. Note that one worker worked only 1,680 hours and received a reduced bonus of 12,146. Only 2 workers worked overtime. Now, how do we calculate the cost of direct labor here? Mm, so this, alright, but one recipe that says that that recipe sounds good. Therefore, to get the going to do is I am going to take 3 workers and calculate their wage based on the normal rate, which is the 90 Rand per hour. Basically, I have 3 workers that worked 1,960 hours. So I'll have 3 times 1,960 times 90 Rand, which will give me the cost of those workers. And once I've done that, I will record that in my direct labor because these are the people that were directly involved in making a product. I will add it to my direct labor. As I've said, it will take 3 times 1,690 times 90. The other worker only worked 1,680 and will still get paid 90 Rand per hour. You will take that 1,680 times 90 Rand and you will add the two. It'll give you the total wage for all the factory workers, which will be 680,400. For overtime, it's pretty much the same scenario. The other 4 workers, so they said only 1 worker worked that and received a reduced bonus of that. Only 2 workers worked overtime. So I'm going to take 2 times it by my overtime. So for my overtime, it'll be the overtime rate here will be that 180. And for overtime, the worker will have worked 100 hours. So it'll be 2 times 100 times 180 for those 2 workers. And 1 worker only got 12,146 for their actually that is a bonus. It's not even overtime. Okay, it's bonus, it's not even overtime. And obviously this worker did not work any overtime because only 2 workers worked overtime. So what we're gonna do is to take 2 times by 100 times 180 to get our overtime rate. That will be part of our direct labor, the cost that we paid for employing these workers, okay? So for direct labor, I am going to take 2 workers multiplied by 100 times by 180. The other worker, though, will only get how much? Nothing at all since they did not work overtime. So the other 2 workers will get nothing. Only these 2 workers will be paid overtime. Now here I wrote it as overtime and bonuses. For bonuses, please note that they said for bonuses, it is an extra cost to the company. It makes sense for us to add bonuses to our direct labor cost. And for bonuses, they said it'll be 12% of normal wages, 12% of normal wages. 1 worker, what we know is that we've got 4 workers, but one of those workers got a reduced bonus of 12,146. So when you calculate bonuses, it'll be based on the 3 workers that worked 1,960 hours. And all we have to do is to take their normal salary, which is what we got here. All right, take this normal salary of these 3 workers and multiply it by 12%. Okay, so I'm going to take 3 multiplied by 1,960 multiplied by 90, it'll give me 529,200. Then you will take that 529,200 and multiply it by the bonus percentage, which is 12%. And then add the reduced bonus of that one employee, which will be 12,146. This will give you overtime and bonus of 111,650. Done again. To all of this, all you have to do now is to add the employer's contributions, right? And I'll have to read further for that. After that, they spoke about factory foreman receiving 160,000 basic salary, and the cleaner was paid 48,000. This is per year. The cleaner spends 75% of the time cleaning the factory and 25% cleaning the administration office block. Please note that the salaries of these two people will be recorded under factory overheads as indirect labor. I will start with the factory supervisor salary of 160, and then I will add it with 75% of the gross salary of the cleaner, which was 48,000. So take 48,000. Why am I multiplying 48,000 by 75%? It's because the cleaner only spent 75% of the time at the factory, all right? And of that 48,000, 25,000 will be recorded under administration costs. That will be 48,000 times 25% will be recorded under administration cost. Okay, done with that entry. Key with accounting, guys, deal with one thing at a time. In essence, I don't have to come back to this question anymore. I am done with this question. It's done. It's over. All right? I don't have to come back to anything. Everything has been sorted out. Let's move on. Now we've got deductions of all workers. Pension is 10% of basic salary. UIF will be 1% of basic salary. They said ignore the limit, which is 177, I think, comma 12. So you ignore that limit. Medical aid will be 9,000. The employee contributes only 1/3. So the fact that the employee salary was deducted, salary excluded this 9,000. This 9,000 is what was paid by the employee. So it is the 1/3. The employer contributes the other 2/3. So the fact that they said deductions for all workers, for employees, they said it's 9,000 Rand, which is 1/3 because that's what the employee contributed. So that 9,000 Rand, guys, as I've said, it is the 1/3. You got it. Let's go to the contributions. For pension, we contribute 2 rands for every 1 rand contributed by the employee. So I'm going to go to everyone because they're talking about everyone here, all right? UIF is rand-to-rand basis. Medical aid, the entity contributes 2/3. Interesting. I will start with the factory workers. And with the factory workers, I will calculate 10% of their basic salary. And I will add that as part of my contribution. The first one will be those 3 employees, remember? So 10% of their basic salary, and then you multiply that by 2 because they said for every 1 rand that the employee contributes, the employer will contribute 2 rands. Okay, so for every 1 rand, we will contribute 2 rands. So we're going to take that 529,000, I think it was 529,000 for those 3 employees, right? 600. You first find the pension, which was the 10%. This is what was deducted from the employee salary. You don't care about deductions because that's what the employee pays. You get the answer, which will be 52,960. Then you will take whatever they contributed. If they contributed this, for every 1 rand that they contributed, will contribute 2 rands. So this is an extra cost to the company. That is why we have to add that to our direct labor cost. So when we calculate our direct cost, we will simply take that 529,200. Okay, I got it wrong there. I said it's 600. It's actually 200. You will multiply it by 10% and multiply it by 2. And for that one employee, it will be this here. If you take this times 90, it'll give you 151,200. Then you times it by the pension, then you multiply it by 2 because we pay twice that. You got it. This is just on pension. I'm done with direct labor. Now I'm going to go to indirect labor. For indirect labor, I will say it's 160 times 10%, and then we multiply that by 2 because we contribute twice what the employee has contributed. And then you go to the factory cleaner. This 48,000 times 75% will give you 36,000. Find 10% of 36,000 and then multiply it by 2. That will give you what the employer has contributed. We're not done. That cleaner also works at the administration block. We're going to go to the administration block. When you take 48,000 and times it by 25, it'll give you 12,000. Then you take 12,000 and find 10% of it and multiply it by 2 because we contribute 2 rands for each. Now we're done. I'm done with pension. I hope you understand how I do this, guys. I deal with one thing at a time. So pension, I am done. Pension, I am done. I don't have to go back to that. Now we're going to go to UIF. For UIF, they said whatever the employee contributes, we also contribute the same amount. So I'm going to go to my direct labor and do the same thing. Those 3 workers take their basic salary and just multiply it by 1%, whatever the employee contributes, we also contribute as well. Okay, so basically what I did here is that I took the 529,200 multiplied by 1%. It'll give you the answer. And then you will take 151,200 and multiply that by 1%. It'll give you the answer. Or you could have just added these and just multiply them by 1% to get the answer, which is what I did. When you add 529,200 with 151,200, it'll give you 680,400. You just times it by 1%, okay? Do the same with the supervisor. So it'll be 160 times 1% as well as 36,000 times 1%. Those are UIF contributions. We're not done because that cleaner also worked at the administration office. I will simply take the 25% of 48,000 is 12,000. You just times it by 1%. Yay, so I'm done with UIF. The next one now is medical aid. Medical aid, they said we contribute 2/3, and we can tell that already 9,000 was deducted. Okay, 9,000 was deducted from the employee's salary. Now, what are we going to do here? I'm going to take the medical aid that was paid by each employee, and I'm going to Well, we have 4 employees. I will first take the 9,000 times it by 4 employees, and whatever the employee contributed, we're going to contribute to 2 of that. Note that the 9,000 here is the 1/3. It is not the total, it is the 1/3. So all I have to do is to multiply it by 2 to get the 2/3. Now we have 4 employees. That's why I multiplied it by 4. But this 2 means that we are looking for what the employer contributed. We're going to do the same thing with our factory overheads. We had 2 people here, which was the factory foreman. So basically the factory foreman contributed 9,000. We will pay twice of that. And when it comes to the cleaner, even though the cleaner contributed 9,000, but only 75% of that was for the factory, and then we multiplied it by 2. The other 25% will go to admin, and meaning that we will take it there in the admin, times it by 25% and times it by 2. Done with medical aid. And from what I see here, it means that once we are done with medical aid, we are done with deductions and contributions. Please note that I forgot to highlight, it is for all workers qualify for these deductions or contributions. So read the question carefully. Read the question carefully. Can I move on? So basically, I can close off my salaries and everything else that relates to the salary because I'm done with anything that has to do with the salaries, okay? And I'll do the same thing when I go to my factory overheads, indirect labor, I will just close it and go to administration and I'll do the same, just close it. We're done with salaries and wages, guys. Counting is simple, very, very easy. It's like a word problem. Do it bit by bit. Try not to confuse yourself. Deal with one thing at a time. Read the question carefully. Read the question carefully. Don't forget to tell your friends, all your friends about this channel, okay? Go ahead and tell them. Thank you for the love, okay? Thank you for the support. I really appreciate it. Let's move on to the next. It's all about factory overheads. Now, we've got the following totals that were extracted from the pre-adjustment trial balance on the 28th of February 2021. For insurance, we've got 39,000. Water and electricity, 63,800. Rates and taxes amounted to 93,600. I just want to check something here because they're saying 25th, 2021. Okay, that means 28th of Feb 2021 is the end of the financial year. Okay, that is good. That means these balances are the balances, closing balances. So that insurance is our insurance expense that we call in the pre-adjustment trial balance. So that will be our expense unless the adjustments tell us otherwise. Guys, this is not different from adjustments that we do in the statement of profit or loss or the income statement. It is not different at all. I always say to my kids, we apply our here and just to make sure that they remember our is one of our students' name in grade 11, which stands for apply, well, adjust before you allocate. Adjust before you allocate. Ensure that you've got an expense that falls within the current financial year first before you can try and allocate it. Make sure it is the expense. Expense must be incurred during the current financial year. This amount that you see on your screen right now, these are expenses that we paid for, and the expenses paid does not equate to expenses incurred. Matching principle. We need more information to conclude that these expenses, as much as they are paid, we need to conclude that they are also incurred. You dig? All right, let's move on and read further. Then they say to you here, insurance for March 2021 has been paid in advance, which is 7,200. You stop right there. We need to adjust our insurance. It means in that insurance expense of 39,000 rand, there is 7,200, which falls in the next financial year. We need to subtract 7,200 from that 39,000 so that we just adjusting now. Once we get on our expense, then we can allocate. And how do we allocate? They told you that half the insurance is allocated to the factory, the rest goes to administration. So we are going to first adjust our insurance. Where do we normally get our insurance? It'll be in our factory overheads. Okay, it'll be 39,000 adjusted. Our adjust minus 7,200 because it doesn't fall into the current financial year. Then allocate 50% of that comes here, and that will be 15,900, which is our expense. Adjust before you allocate. And they said 50% comes here, and the other 50%, that means the other 15,000 will come to 15,900 will come to administration. Adjust before you allocate. You see, I adjust, close the bracket, then allocate. I allocate using percentages here, which is the 50%. Easy, right? And let's read further about these expenses. What else do they say about these expenses? 85%, the factory uses 85% of water and electricity. That is the allocation base, okay? The rest is shared equally. They're also telling you that the rest will be, if 85% goes to the factory, that means the rest that they're talking about will be the 15%. So the 15% that is left will be shared equally between administration as well as selling and distribution. That means 7.5 goes to administration and 7.5% will go to selling and distribution. That is the allocation. But before we can allocate, I said we need to first do what? We first need to adjust. And this is the adjustment where they say that water and electricity account for February, which is 5,800, has been received but not yet paid, meaning that amount was not included in the water and electricity expense of 63,800. So we need to include it because it represents water and electricity expense that was incurred. So you adjust by taking 63,800 and then add the 8,500. Once you have adjusted, now you can allocate how much of this actual expense comes to factory overheads. Only 85% of the total amount will come to factory overheads, which will give us 59,160. The 7.5 of water and electricity adjusted will go to administration, which is 5,220. The other 5,220 will go to selling and distribution. Oh, I prepared these notes with my grade 11s. Shout out to grade 11 accounting students. They are amazing. Awesome, well prepared. Okay. I know it took us a while. It took us like 3 periods for us to complete this, but I just wanted them to learn. And because a lot of people think that all of these things, I just take the memo and then I just type the memo out and then present it here on YouTube. No, I have to actually sit down and do this, type it in and answer the question, just like I am doing right now. I did this with my students, asking them questions. And that's why most of it is very accurate, because you also get contribution from the students as well. And yeah, just to show them that actually I have to, when I give you homework or classwork, I'm not just asking you to do it. It's because I've also done it. Even worse, when I was doing it, I had to do it as a slide. I had to type these things in, do animations. It takes so much time. And then one student doesn't do your work, you understand how angry a teacher will get, because it's like, I've done work for you and you didn't do your part. Let's go to rates and taxes. They say that rates and taxes are allocated according to the floor space. Factory will be 1,200 and 300 square meters will go to office, and 1,000 will be, 100 will be sales. And for this one here, they basically said nothing about allocation, adjusting. That means our rates and taxes that we are given there will be accurate, right? That's what it means. It means rates and taxes will be accurate. We don't need to adjust it. Now, how do we work this one out? You'll go to factory overheads, take the 9,600. But before I get there, let me just show you calculations quickly. What ratios? You've done ratios in grade 8. I know that I'm doing it in grade 8 right now. And by the time they get to grade 9, they should be prepared when it comes to this. And with these ratios, guys, everything that you do is very, very important. Basically, at Veritas College, I am teaching grade 8 maths, even though I can teach up to grade 12. But for now, I'm just focusing on grade 8 maths. And it is just to make sure that all the kids' math is on point. For when they get to grade 9, we can start doing accounting and we don't have to worry about things like ratios, calculating VAT, calculating gross profit and stuff like that. So it makes it a bit easier for me to introduce them to the maths that we use in accounting, maths of accounting, in math actually, so that we can apply those principles when we do accounting. So what I'm going to do now is to write down these ratios and what each part of the ratio represents. So I know that 1,200 will be for the factory, 300 will be for administration, 100 will be selling and distribution. In total, it'll give me 1,600. So if I want factory rates and taxes, I will take 96,600 times it by 1,200 all over the total. We want the factory, multiply by what you want, divide by what you have. So basically, it is the F divided by the T. Okay, the F divided by the T. The T is this one, which is the total. So this one is the S and, okay, how do we write that? How do I write that? I hope I won't embarrass myself. Yeah, something like that. The S and D, selling and distribution. This one will just be administration. That one is the F's. Because I wanted the F, I multiplied by the F and I divided by the total. And for administration, whatever I get there, as I've said, will be recorded under factory overheads as rates and taxes. All right. And if I want the one that goes to administration, I will take the same 93,600 multiplied by A over T, which is 200, 300 actually, over 1,600. So that is A divided by T, A divided by T. All I get there will go to administration, which will be 17,515. And for selling and distribution, it'll be that 93,600, you times it by 100, you divide it by T. For selling and distribution, when you allocate it, it will be 93,600 times it by 100 divided by 1,600, which will give you 5,815. Done. Done, guys. Just like that. In essence, I am done with everything there. Let's move on, and I am done with everything there. All right, guys, please check out another podcast. Also check out different papers where I dealt with each question. Just for manufacturing, look at the question paper, but only look at the manufacturing part. It is also called cost accounting part. Basically, I've done only manufacturing questions from those papers. So you just look at that and then make sure that you do all your manufacturing questions. All right. And they said here depreciation written off during the year for factory machinery will be 55,000. That one I will take it straight to factory overheads. Depreciation of any asset that was used in manufacturing will be recorded under factory overheads. Now, I normally give them different things. I'll give them depreciation on vehicles and then write in brackets delivery vehicle. And then I'll say depreciation on vehicles and write in brackets is delivery vehicle. And what's the other one? I normally say it's vehicles used in the factory. And note that for delivery vehicle to customers, that one will be under factory overhead. So depreciation on vehicles that we use to transport goods to customers will be recorded under selling and distribution. But depreciation of a vehicle that was used to deliver stock that was purchased from the supplier to us, basically raw materials that we bought from the supplier when you transport it to us, that vehicle that we used, depreciation on that vehicle will be included under factory overheads, as long as it was depreciation of an asset that was used at the factory to make sure that production happens at the factory. When I talk about a delivery vehicle used to deliver goods to customers, that is not involved in producing. It is a vehicle that is used at the finished product center, where we take our finished products and when we supply them to customers that have bought them. So that will be selling and distribution cost, of which you will normally charge to your customers, which is actually paid by your customers. Well, it is included in sales most of the time. Okay, let us move on. And the next one will be on rent. What do we do with rent here? Let me just read. They say rent amounted to 180 was paid for the entire financial year. This amount must be divided in the ratio of 2:3:2:1 between the factory, administration, as well as selling and distribution. And I don't know if I typed this, but I remember doing it with my students. That means I did it on the board. I didn't type it. Two set. So what are we going to do there with that type of a ratio? You will simply add it up. So it was how much? It was 3:2. It was 3:2:1, right? Okay, just look at it again. What is the ratio again? The ratio was so the 3. So it was 3 is for the factory. I'll just write F. I am going to add them up. And the other one will be the 2 is for admin. So I'll just write A. And then the 1 was for selling and distribution. I'll just write S and E. Okay. It'll give you the total ratio. So your total ratio here will be 6. So I'll just say 6 is the T. Please don't judge, guys. I'm just using the casting here. And if I want the factory, so if I want rent for the factory, I'll just take that 180 times it by 3 over 6, and that will be recorded under factory overheads. And read the question carefully, guys. Read the question carefully. And I know that 3 over 6 comes here. 2 over 6 will go to administration. And 1 of the 6th will go to selling and distribution. Done, guys. Easy, right? All right. Let us read further. Then they say we've got the following balances that appeared in the books on the 28th of February. I am basically done with that one for rent. So we've got raw materials of 106,000. So basically that one will be taken to my raw materials. And when I take it to my raw materials, I will record it in brackets, right? We subtract balance of raw materials. That means 106 of raw materials did not go to production. So what went to production will be everything. So it'll be the opening plus purchases plus carriage plus customs. And I don't know why I wrote custom like that. And then you minus your balance at the end of the year. Let me correct it before Caesar Lomo comes and this is me like he did to Carrie Wilson. All right. That 149,272, I will record it in my production cost statement as direct material cost. All right. And then we've got work in progress, which is 84,282. Normally that one you will record it in your production cost statement and then you will subtract it. But before I subtract that one, can I please just, I think I added my direct labor, which is at 106,000, 1,006,934. That one will also be put in my production cost as direct labor cost. I'll just add those that will give me prime cost. Okay. And let me go to my factory overheads. I don't think for factory overheads I have any other thing. So I'll just also have to total my factory overheads up. Let me just close it by subtracting the value of consumable stores at the end of the year, which is the 20,000. So it'll be this 20,000 right here. It'll give me my total consumable stores, which will be whatever. Okay, I forgot to do this as well. They said 90% of consumable stores. Let me just read that. They said 90% of consumable stores will be done what? So 90% of consumable stores are used in the factory and the remainder is used in selling and distribution. So that is why I found the total first And after getting the total, I multiplied it by 90%, which will give me 20,700. Add it with everything else. It'll give you a total for consumable stores of 574,060. You will take that and put it under your production cost statement. Add this one here, your prime. Please watch the first video where I explain this, okay? Your prime cost added with your factory overheads, it'll give you your total production cost, which is TCM. I normally refer to it as TCM, but here it is TCP, which is your total cost of production. And that will be 1,730,266. And you will just add it with work in progress at the beginning of the year, which will be 1,753,266. And let me see if I have any other thing. Just on that 90%, I'm going to take the other 10% to my selling and distribution. So 10% will be that 2,300. Okay. So where do I get the 23,000? The 23,000 comes from all of this. So basically, when you take your 10,000, you add it with 36,500, you minus 3,500, you minus 20,000. It'll give you that 23,000. You just take it and then multiply it by 10%, as 10% of that will come to selling and distribution. I'll just add that up, okay? I'll come back to selling and distribution. For now, I'm still on my production costing. The only thing that I haven't dealt with is work in progress, stock at the end of the year. That one, when I go to my production cost statement, I will subtract it. And when I subtract it, I'll end up having my cost of production of finished goods. That cost of production of finished goods, I have to add it to cost of finished goods and then subtract finished goods that were not sold at the end of the year, which is this amount here, which is this 50,000 right here. You will subtract that to get the cost of finished goods or cost of sales, cost of finished goods sold. Please know that sometimes they won't even give you this cost that I'm giving you here. So sometimes they won't give you this. They will give you the selling price and then the markup. So you have to take the selling price, find the cost price and put it here and then work backwards sometimes to get that and then work backwards probably to calculate something else. So you need to be able to work backwards. Please check out the past papers as I have explained. Okay, I'm going to move on. And what am I going to do with that cost of finished goods? I'm going to have to put it in my short income statement, the main income statement. So I will take that because I was given the markup, just multiply it by 150 divided by 100 to get my sales amount. But that will be written here as cost of sales, and I can use that to get my gross profit. Okay. And then I will close off I've already closed off my selling and distribution. I will close off my admin and selling and distribution. These two will go to the short income statement. And when we put it in the short income statement, we'll put them as our expenses. Selling and distribution is 40. It was 117,690. I hope I didn't swap them around. Let me just confirm. For administration, it's 117,000. I swapped them around. Okay. The other one is selling and distribution, and the other one is administration. Let me just correct it quickly. All right, let's just do that together. So basically, this is what you will get. When you add those two, it'll give your total expenses, and then you subtract it from your gross profit to get your net profit, which will be 660,932. Try out example 3. This is what you have for example 3. You prepare those, obviously. And check out the next video for solutions to all of that. Thank you for watching. Pretoria still leading. I really appreciate it. Number 2 is Cape Town, then Soweto, Devon. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for your support. Keep on watching. Please let everybody that you know about this channel. And don't forget to subscribe and like, comment if you have any comments. And thank you. I do get some messages from all the people that are supporting me. Some actually WhatsApp me to appreciate the work that is being done on this channel. I really appreciate it, guys. I will respond to your WhatsApp messages soon. Thank you for watching. Kgotso.